Single day in this office, I put Canadians first, that I have people's backs. And that's why I'm here to tell you all. In the meantime, we'll be taking action to support Canadians through the tough times ahead. You can count on leadership right across the country, municipalities, provinces, and indeed, your federal government. But mostly, you can continue to count on each other. Canadians have been there for each other, for small businesses, for local producers, for friends. Canadians will pull together and continue to pull together with deep, deep pride in country as all of us stand together to defend Canada. As
we are doing whatever is necessary to protect our workers and our businesses, we continue our work to make life more affordable for Canadian families and our middle class. And that is what brings us together here today. Thank you for being here.
I don't know. I'm considering as a Canadian, Trump is my enemy. Just have to straighten the record here. I can't let people say such, you know what I mean? Like, Trump is more of my enemy than Trudeau is. I'll say that. That's how I feel now with the way Trump's been in the last while.
With Miriam, Jenna, Yasser, and myself for an announcement that is a little bit a return to the origins for us. Helping the middle class and people who aspire to belong is at the heart of the reasons why I chose to serve Canadians as Prime Minister in 2003. I always took this commitment seriously and acted accordingly, and I shall continue to do until my last breath as Prime Minister. We created the child allowance, which allowed us to pull thousands of children and families out of poverty. Children is one of our priorities in our dental care plan, and these children are among the first to have access to our dental care plan. We created a national program of a school food service, which, in addition to helping children succeed better at school and grow up in more healthy fashion, will allow parents to save hundreds of dollars every year. We also launched our Pan-Canadian program for daycare, which brings us here today.
Since 2015,
and Rhonda,
my focus, our focus has been,
and Devil is due, by the way, for to say all that,
on stepping up for Canadian families and the middle class. We've done it with middle-class tax cuts, with the Canada Child Benefit that has lifted hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty, the school food program, dental care, and childcare. Childcare being the reason we're gathered here today. For decades in this country, people have been talking about creating a national childcare system.
You know, I got to give it to Trudeau. One thing I think people aren't given enough credit for, he's actually getting a lot of criticism for this, is, you know, a typical person on their last few days of work, they're not usually they're not usually doing very much. But for whatever reason, he's gone on to do more than he's done in the last 3 months, in the last 2 weeks. I don't understand. Like, is he just knowing he's going to piss everybody off on his way out and that's why he's doing it? Like, I don't know, right? Like, to me, it's like, is it something you respect him for, or is it just kind of sad at this point? And it's just like, dude, just stop, just get out of the way. Like, everything you're doing is pretty much irrelevant at this point, unless the next administration decides to keep it.
And to be fair, sometimes governments got close, but it just never got done. Then in 2020, the pandemic showed everyone what many parents, advocates, and smart economists already knew. Childcare is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's not just a nice-to-have social program, it's a foundational building block of a strong economy. So we worked like hell with provinces, territories, and providers, drawing on the successful experience of 25 years in Quebec to make it a reality right across the country. And it wasn't a moment too soon. In recent years, our program supported families through a cost of living crisis, and it even helped avoid a recession. Families were able to save thousands of dollars on childcare, just as global inflation and interest rates jacked up their mortgages and squeezed their family budgets hard. It's been and continues to be a game changer for so many of them. Now, when we first committed to Canada-wide early learning and childcare, we said we would cut fees quickly and create 250,000 $10-a-day childcare spaces. We heard a lot of naysayers. But today, it's hard.
He's like, I'm used to that.
Hard for those folks to deny the facts. As of this year, 150,000 new affordable spaces have been created or funded, and we are on track to reach our goal of creating 100,000 more by this time next year. Today, families are saving thousands of dollars thanks to this program. Per child, per year, savings can reach $6,000 in Nova Scotia, over $10,000 in Ontario, and over $13,000 in Alberta. Per child. See, this is great news, not only for parents, not only for kids, but for our entire economy. Childcare means that parents, especially mothers, can choose to fully participate in our workforce because they don't have to decide between their career and their children. It helped reduce the gender wage gap, child poverty, and inequality. In 2015, women were earning 84 cents on the dollar. Today, that's up to 88 cents, still not good enough, but climbing. In 2015, over 16% of Canadians under 18 lived in poverty. Today, it's less than 10%. Again, still not enough, but it is significant progress that has not just led to better outcomes for individuals and better quality of life for people, but it's led to better economic growth for entire country. And childcare is a matter of fairness. It strengthens our economy, makes it more resilient, and that's never been as important as it is right now. Now, we can be proud of the progress we've seen since 2021, but I think all Canadians know that we can't take that progress for granted. As Jenna mentioned, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada never believed in childcare. They always voted and campaigned against it at every opportunity. In fact, they voted against each and every one of the measures to help Canadian families in the middle class that I just listed. Now, right now, we have a Canada-wide childcare program that is off to a phenomenal start. But the 5-year agreements we first signed with the provinces and territories are expiring next March. And that's a source of concern for providers, for parents, and for provinces. People are worried about what will happen next year. I think of a family I met, with kids 3 years old in childcare. They're worried that suddenly their costs are going to go up from $10 back to $40, $50 a day. They can't handle that in this economy. I think about young families that I meet that are excited about starting a family, but worried that they might have missed the window on childcare. That a change in government could mean, nope, $10 a day childcare was a blip that helped a few, but won't be there for them into the future. As a country, we simply cannot go back to making families pay the equivalent of a monthly mortgage payment for childcare. I think we all understand that building a Canada-wide childcare system that will stand the test of time will take more than just a couple of years. We are building an entire system almost from scratch, in the sense that the coordination, the impact varied widely from region to region, from province to province. So creating a national expectation that wherever you are, wherever you're raising your family in this country, you can rely on the support that affordable, quality childcare will give you, is one of those things that is nation building.
Yeah, like
young families and our...
I understand there is a bit of a criteria to this too. It's not just like, here it is for everybody, like, because it's too expensive, right? Like, it's a profession that over the last few decades has gotten more and more strict. The pay has gotten higher, from what I understand a little bit from people I know who work in this industry. You know, what they're expected to have is way more than what they used to be expected to have 20 years ago. So it's a pretty big investment when you're investing into childcare nowadays, by today's standards.
Early childhood educators and providers need reliable, long-term funding to plan for the future, to plan for Canada's future. On a personal level, I've made sure that every single day in this office, I put Canadians first, that I have people's backs. And that's why...
He's tearing up, guys. What?
I'm here to tell you all that we got you. Even in the very last days of this government, we will not let Canadians down today and long into the future. Because in the past few weeks, we've been working with our provincial and territorial partners to make sure that families can rely on this system, not just for years to come, but will allow this system to lock in, to become something that no government, a year from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now, could ever go back on. And it's hard to do, because there is nothing one government can't do that can't be undone by the following government, unless Canadians are very clear on the need to keep this going. So
or if everybody wants it to keep going, Democrat, you know, it'll happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's
going to make sure.
I don't think they're fake tears. I'll give you that. I think he's actually this emotional and thinks he's making this big of a difference with this move. Like, I don't think he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it.
That more Canadians over the coming years understand that childcare is a foundational building block of what it means to be Canadian, like healthcare or social programs or cheering at a Canadian anthem.
What?
Today,
what did you just say?
We have cheering of what it means to be Canadian, like healthcare or social programs or cheering at a Canadian anthem.
So you're comparing social programs, free healthcare, and childcare to singing at a Canadian anthem? Like, what? Like, it's just like, dude, like, at least when Pierre does it, you know, it does this like cheesiness where he's like playing hockey on the street and in an affordable home. You know, when he does that whole thing, like, it's like, it's cheesy, but he sells it to a degree. You're like, okay, you're being cheesy, but it's not like, it's a little cringy. I'll give you that. But this is just another level of that. This is like, what are you, like, it's like you're trying to emulate that, and it just comes off like this.
Today, we have great news to share. We've reached a deal with 11 of 13 provinces and territories to extend current early learning and childcare agreements until March 2031.
When you're doing this stuff that's like these big pledges that can't be undone, like, to me that seems like anti-democratic, because like if the next administration is going to want to put that in as well, or, you know, the people who voted that administration demanded of the people they voted in, then it'll happen and it'll keep going. Like, all the good stuff he does or has done, if the little there is, will stay. Like, most of it anyways, from what I understand of like, when it comes to the stuff that was actually good, you know what I mean? Like, there is a few things that he did that weren't completely horrible. And I think we need to remember that there was a time where he was somewhat came across as competent, right? And I think, you know, if you just look all the way back there to 2015 to now, there is, like, you know, with the way the child tax care benefit was structured and the additions to it, I thought was good. But I think they should have just stopped there, right? Like, instead of doing this $10 a day childcare, why not just increase the funding, or, partially increase it in the child tax benefit, so you have money that, like, people can afford childcare easier, like things like that, or just, give tax breaks, like, I don't know, just something else, like, to help people afford it, rather than just this grandstand handout that you're gonna have a really hard time maintaining, because it's not cheap, and it's not easy to, like, and especially if they're having it like means tested and everything as well. There's a whole group of people who need to manage the program. Like, it just becomes so expensive really quickly.
And not only are we extending current agreements, we're also increasing the funding that these agreements provide by 3% per year to help provinces and territories deal with costs that we know will rise over the coming years. It includes funding for 35,000 affordable spaces across nearly 1,000 Indigenous early learning and childcare sites, including more than 10 new centres in Métis communities, with more to be created in the next 2 years. And on childcare, we're also stepping up directly in federal jurisdiction by making sure that military families have the childcare supports they need. In recent years, I've had the honor of meeting many of the men and women in our armed forces, and childcare is a concern that I repeatedly heard about. The Canadian Armed Forces protect Canadians.
It's an affordability issue, right? It's a symptom of poor economic circumstances. Like, that's where we get to the point where people can't afford childcare. Not, because you haven't made it free yet. Like, this is what he doesn't get. Like, it's like, come on.
Our freedoms every single day, both abroad and at home. They and their families sacrifice much to serve Canada and Canadians, and they should have reliable, affordable access to quality childcare. That's why we're working with not-for-profit childcare providers to expand near bases and creating opportunities for scholarships for interested CAF family members to train and certify as early childhood educators. We're also creating a network of childcare coordinators to help families as they move from base to base quickly connect to local childcare resources. And by doing so, we're also encouraging more Canadians to join our armed forces, because they'll know that they can raise a family and defend and serve our country all at the same time, that we see the needs to support military families. Now, your federal Liberal government got it done. But Liberal, Progressive, Conservative, and NDP provincial governments are all a part of today's agreement. And that is great. That is as it must be. Because helping families, helping the middle class, that's not just a Liberal priority, that's a Canadian priority.
Yeah, everybody agrees.
All parties.
No one's disagreeing on that. We're just agreeing on your approach to do this is dumb and out of touch, because you're just, even if you have a team of people, you're clearly not listening to them. Like, this is what I mean. Like, it's just frustrating, because it's like he puts virtue and this, like, high moral ground he pretends he has above everything else. And it's just leads him into these just stuff like this announcement, it's just ridiculous. And he's like tearing up about it. It's like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, you actually, like, and like the worst part is the people around him are just like, oh, like they're like all into it. And it's just like, do you guys not realize just how you're just jerking all each other off? Like, it's just ridiculous. Like,
all governments must press forward until there is an affordable childcare space for every family that wants them long into the future. And if we persist, a few years from now, Canadians will rightly view childcare as one of the foundational pillars
I forgot about that, Trudeau.
Our economy, of our society. And I know that decades from now, future generations will benefit hugely from the choices we all made together today, as it should be. Merci beaucoup, mes amis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.